The title of my paper is Learner Attitude During COVID-19 Compelled Online Pedagogy. It's a minor study, okay, paper. So participants, this is something you must all have come across, the problems that learners face. I'll begin by telling you something about the background of my study, the problem, the objectives, the method, the findings, and implications of my study. Okay, this is the background. When the COVID pandemic struck sometime in March 2020, for almost 1 year, it was online instruction. Children started missing their friends, activities that they do to in school, and even their own teachers they started missing. Now, what the schools did was they shifted to virtual learning immediately. Okay. Now, one thing that you should remember is neither the teachers nor the students were familiar with this mode of learning. The teachers did not know how to go about actually teaching online. They were just teaching the camera was on, they were teaching in a face to face session. But as you know, this wouldn't work. So, what is the problem? In India, one major problem was there's a big digital divide. Particularly in rural areas, there is no internet connection. And some of them did have a smartphone, but ideally you need a computer, which means economic factors are important. You should have money to buy a computer, a laptop. You should have internet connection for for a good data card you have to buy. So it all began to affect online learning experience. Okay. Now the absence of face-to-face instruction is again a big problem. So we all know that if children are asked to continuously learn in sitting in front of the computer, if they are not allowed to play, all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy. So slowly they started becoming disinterested and mental issues started cropping up. Okay, so my objectives of my study is to find out the nature of the problems that the learners had, particularly during COVID-19 compelled online learning. And I noticed that there was some kind of mental issues in my conversations with teachers. So I tried to find out how face-to-face instruction was really affecting the mental health of learners. So my method was I collected data from learners and teachers in schools. Then I did review 3 case studies. That is my main contribution in this study. And finally, this data which I collected about the problems was matched with impressions neuroscientists now give. Now neuroscience contributions is highly significant, and everyone is looking forward to the ideas they are suggesting to incorporate it into our own teaching. Okay, so what are my findings? I'll briefly tell you the case studies. Number one is about a standard 10 student. The names and all have changed. The particular student had a friend staying nearby, but unfortunately, there was a lot of deaths in the locality. So the parents were very protective. She was not allowed to step out of the house for almost a year. And usually, she used to play with a neighborhood friend, but they were not allowed to meet for almost 1 year. This was terrible for the student who was studying in the standard 9. Then the other student who had just completed schooling, though she secured a first class and an A plus, she did not get admission in the local college. Then again, this was another problem. So the parents immediately made this girl attend online sessions for extra classes for coaching because they were worried about her performance. So what happened? Besides the regular online class from morning 8:30 to 1:30, that girl had to attend tuition classes. And then what happened? Suddenly the parents, the teachers, they all started problems in the way she was behaving, the responses she was giving, the lack of interest she was displaying, the temper tantrums that she was displaying. So problem. This is case study number 1. Case study number 2 is about, many schools started giving mental health. As part of mental health, they appointed a psychologist. And the psychologist asked the students to write a letter to your best friend. So one of these letters we accessed, and this you could see the kind of language they say, how they're missing out on sitting in the bench, sharing with friends, by playing, fighting, quarreling, the love of life, of a child. All this ends, and that letter continuously says the problem. That is case study number two. And the case study number three is really frightening. There was a girl not in a city, a far off place. She was in standard 10. She did not have money. She wouldn't have a smartphone. She didn't have a TV at home. And she didn't have internet connection. She badly wanted to say, out of hopelessness, this girl commits suicide. Now, all these things are very shocking. So, I've been very brief in this presentation of these three case studies. When you read it line by line, you'll really realize the problem that we students are facing. So, if you ask me what is a real problem, no interest, lack of interest, lackadaisical, and disinterested in learning completely. That is one major finding. Now I try to collect impressions from neuroscientists. You see what they say: stress and anxiety caused by COVID-19 can impact physiological and cognitive functions. Sleep, memory, attention, all this can be affected. You see? Here's another one. We are all social beings. Now, if you try to separate the students, the children, social isolation, then the brain is going to see it as a threat. And if it's the isolation is prolonged for 1 year, they have not been meeting friends. It will negatively affect physical and mental health. You see, this again by a neuroscientist. And more importantly, look at the last one. Children require nurturing adults. So we all know when these children go to school, teachers ask, they are ones who look after them, who attend to their physical and emotional and social needs. In the online class, what they see is just that I have a teacher in front of the computer. There's no connection. So adverse circumstances can again impair brain development. So from the neuroscience perspective, what we get is a very grim picture. Okay, so what are the implications of my study? You need to initiate steps to foster mental health in children. That is number one. That is it's happening already. But more importantly, now they are trying to redesign the curriculum, because even the next academic year they are going to have it online. So it is time that you redesign this curriculum and the course book, looking into the learning and the learner needs in the virtual mode. The material that you teach should be suitable for the virtual mode. The strategies that you employ should be suitable for the virtual mode. And then, of course, the mental health has to be taken care of. So these are my implications and suggestions. Okay, these are some of the references, not all the references. So thank you very much.